Um, Happy New Year, 2023, the first meeting of 2023 for the Studio City Neighborhood Council Outreach Meeting. My name is Brandon Marino. It is 7:03, so we'll call this meeting to order at 7:03. Roll call. Brandon Marino, I'm here. Karen Sorrow, absent at the time. Ira Gold.
Here.
Sherry Kessel is here. I could see her. Terry Austin.
Here.
Julie Houlihan will be late. And Scott Mandel.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. Next order of business is the approval of the November meeting minutes. There was no meeting in December. I emailed these out to you, I believe on the 31st, if I'm not mistaken, or the 29th, my mistake, 29th. If there is no objection, I will approve the the minutes without objection. Anybody? No? They are approved without objection. Getting to item number 3 now. Updates from committee chair, including Luminaria recap. It went well. I have never been a part of a Luminaria before, but I'd like to thank Scott Mandel for stepping up and doing the sound. He did a fantastic job. Terry was a little upset that she wasn't given advance notice, but when she got there, she did a great job. Abby, fantastic master. I guess you were the master of ceremony, were you not? I don't know. You dressed up nicely. It looked good. Ira showed up, and Ira helped me out on the back gate quite a bit. We had nice conversations. Everybody, Richard helping us out with the Radford gear, the ingress and egress of getting that gear over to Luminaria. And I don't know what the count was as to the number of people who showed up at Luminaria, but it was quite a bit. I was working the back gate and a lot of people kept flowing in and the music was fantastic and it turned out to be a nice event. I wish it was a little drier, but the rain did stop just in time. And, despite what some people said, it turned out okay. I was pleasantly surprised with the turnout. Whether or not it's going to happen next year, who knows?
And some happy kids too.
Happy kids too. Yes, absolutely. So there's really nothing more to discuss regarding updates because it's a new year. Terry, did you have something to say?
I was just wondering, were we going to discuss about Luminaria, about were we going to go over what we thought might be better for next year instead of waiting 12 months to try to remember what we thought about it?
Well, Luminaria is really a cultural affairs thing. I think when cultural affairs meets, I believe in February, they weren't meeting this month. They can do a recap of Luminaria, and then maybe they can invite outreach committee members to give some input, and we can have a nice roundtable discussion about that. But I don't want to take anything away from cultural affairs. They work their tails off to make this happen. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Richard, for that.
Barry, that was Barry. Barry was the lead.
Yes, Barry did. Barry did
no,
also.
I was just an assistant.
Okay.
I was just assisting Barry behind the scenes. It was Barry and
okay.
No.
You're basically well, by saying Barry, you're basically calling him. He's going to show up any second. Watch.
Like a genie.
So that being said, we will dispose of item number 3 and we'll go to item number 4. Possible announcements by any representatives present. I do not see any. So calling user 1, I believe, is for public comment, but that has not happened yet. General public comment. That will be coming on item number 6. If you want to hold off. Do you have anything to add that's not public comment? Are you a government representative? You can speak.
No, I'm not a public representative. I wanted to speak on number 3, but I guess you don't want that.
No. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Go right ahead.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Paradise Neighborhood Council, they would never do something like this. What they like doing, rather than doing something positive like this, is to help criminals re-enter the system. So that's where that goes. So it doesn't go to the community, it goes for criminals at the probation department. So they hooked up with the probation department to help criminals including convicted child molesters, to re-enter our crappy city in Van Nuys. So I'm glad you guys didn't go in that direction. Thank
No,
you.
we're not. Oh, one really quick question, Colin User One. What happened to Mike Browning? He resigned, or he went on to better things? What happened over there? I
Okay,
attended the meeting, but I didn't understand what was going on.
Mr. Browning, I'll give you a little backstory. I just need
Really
about
quick.
1.5 minutes.
Sure. it's fine.
Backstory, he took over a Samuel Wolf because I sued Samuel Wolf and the whole neighborhood council because of Brown Act violations.
Got it.
So he skedaddled. Michael Browning stepped up to the plate, did the best he did based on the resources. A Terrence Gomes, as part of the settlement, had to be put on there as a quote receiver because of the Brown Act violations. He made it very clear his end date was going to be in December. He tried the best, trying to get committee members and everything, but you get some pretty lazy people over in Van Nuys, bunch of schnorrs, as I call them. And Kathy Schreiner now is part of it. She's in my opinion, a socialist, and she practices socialism. So that's pretty much it. But Mr. Browning is still on the board. He's well loved. I respect him, even though we're politically different, but he's at least honest about it. And anytime he did anything, he always footnotes it, as in, I tried to contact this person, I did a follow-up, they did nothing. And that was always good for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the update. I appreciate that. I was unclear about that. So no representatives. We'll move on to item 5. Item 5 is outreach goals and assignments for winter spring 2023. I will start delegating authority here and divvying out assignments. I do a lot. That's just my nature. I'll just say, okay, I'll do it. But as we move into 2023, we've got a lot of challenges. Obviously, the election's coming up. We're still trying to find an ad hoc election committee that stakeholders, not elected or appointed board members per our rules. And that's a little bit of a challenge. I hate using bureaucratic words like challenge. I sound like a done person. It's an issue, but hopefully we can get that resolved. I believe February is when the election kicks off for us. The election won't happen until June 22nd, but February is candidate filing beginning. And I think that ends at April 8th, I believe. So we have a good 2 months to get the word out. And that's going to be a later agenda item this month. So I'll leave most of that for, I believe it's 8, if I'm not mistaken. Is it? It is. Item 8. But in terms of the website, I know Ira already has access to the website. He's an admin on it. Are you still? I believe he is. Do you have access? You do have it.
So, unless it changed. I haven't gone in and
okay.
into it.
So I've been doing the posts for the website and for social media, but if you want to post stuff on our website, Ira, you are very careful with everything. I appreciate that. You do kind of take a step back and say, okay, what can we do, what we can't do, what's good, what's not good, should we be doing this? You've always been very much like that, very careful. So I would have no issue with you going onto the website and helping with some of the posts. Terry actually emailed me regarding banners. That I'll have to contact Kim, or actually I can go into the portal and see how much money we have left. It would it's an unusual year because we're going to have to keep in mind that a lot of money might be going to the election cycle. So, and also I believe the North Hollywood Interfaith Food Pantry has an upcoming ask for, I don't know how much. I didn't see the paperwork, but we'll see exactly how much we have left. We may have to forego the banners at least until June or July. Maybe we could still, I mean, from what I understand, we might still have the old banners in the office somewhere. I think Barry mentioned it once or twice that we still have the old banners. It's the old logo, but from what I understand, we go through the city and the city pays for the installation. we have to pay for the banners, but the city will install it for free pending a city council vote. And they do this routinely for neighborhood councils. They will pay for the installation. So if we have banners already in the office or down in our basement storage area, Richard, you've been with this neighborhood council for a while. Did we do light post banners at one time?
Yes, we did.
Do we still have them?
And it's of hanging them.
You're cutting out, Richard.
The problem is getting permission from
Oh, we go through a CD4 or we go through CD4. You're cutting out again, Richard.
the approved. That's all, and we're competing with everything from the Hollywood Bowl to whatever. And we have a lot of competition for banner space in Studio City.
So what you're saying is if we start now, it might take quite a few months before we get on the docket, correct?
Yes, because other people also want those locations.
Okay. So Terry, if you want to investigate that a little further, and you've got your contacts at CD4 and CD2, you know quite a few people. I mean, you're very well connected. If there can be a realistic goal as to I think I can contact a few neighborhood councils and find out the prices. I know Tarzana has some really nice ones. At least they did. Along Ventura Boulevard. And I can see how much they might cost. I don't know if our regular print house does banners, but we can look into that. If you want to look into that, Terry, and get some ideas about how much they might cost if we can't find the old banners, then
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. And Richard's right. I've seen it on city council agendas many, many times, approval of banners for different things. And if they just, what do you call it? Consent, put it on the consent. They don't even vote. It goes on the consent. So nobody ever does.
this is more of a roundtable discussion. So call-in user 1, your hand is up if you have something to add. Richard, I'll get to you after call-in user 1. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
What you're going to run into in Van Nuys with the banners is they're going to push something called diversity. They want it diversity. They want you to do a diversity inclusion type of message. Done will cock block you left and right. They'll also make you play the political chain gang. That means CD, whoever you guys use, has to go through Dunn. Dunn gives their 2 cents. Then they don't get back to you. Then they say you have to use a particular type of vendor because that's their issue. So anytime you deal with, especially with Dunn, make sure to get something in writing from them, and don't let them do something called vague, like we'll get back to you whenever. So you want yes or no, or can, cannot, do not, and you also want them to do something called citation. If they say you can't do something, tell them to provide the policy of the citation, and then you can just see what one of those parasites will do to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Niederberg, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing to it, is that there is a very restricted amount of vendors because of the fact that it requires trucks that have man lifts or people lifts on them to put them on it as you attack into city property, which is of course. So I'm saying is that it does take time, and the vendors are very that you got to have the trucks and permission to use and to park on the street. So that's one of the reasons that you got to go here and here. It's got to be approved trucks. Okay.
Got it.
I'm on it, Richard.
I'm writing these down, so my apologies for the delay. I'm just writing as fast as I don't know shorthand, so my mom does, but I don't. So maybe it's something I should learn. Anybody else with their hand up regarding the banner idea? Any other comments? Let me lower the hand and lower the hand. Whoops. There we go. Also, perhaps getting into I know the Sherman Oaks the Studio City Sherman Oaks Encino News. I think I picked one up over at a coffee shop, and there were a couple of articles on a certain project happening just to the east of me. 2 consecutive months, the November and December one had an article on, well, I'll say at Harvard West, the River Park project. But that seems like publication, and there is another publication that at the meet and greet he showed up, and I don't know if Scott or Ira, did you ever follow up on the Studio City guy, the Studio City magazine guy, as to whether or not we can have like a regular monthly spot, like maybe a blurb, like they do in the Sherman Oaks Studio City Encino News, where you got Nithya Raman, you have I think a Catherine Barger. I think she's in that as well, at least her representatives, and Paul Krikorian. They have their little corner where they talk about things. Is it something maybe was something that maybe we can do? Scott, I mean, since you're the voice of this neighborhood council, is this something you'd want to do?
That magazine, I think that was just for south of Ventura, right?
It is. It's for the homeowners south of Ventura.
Some emails went back and forth on that, and then the emails just stopped. That started before June.
Yeah, that was during the meet and greet at the park when we met him.
And then there was some email exchanges trying to get some more.
I see you, Sherry. Hold on. Let Scott finish first.
And nothing ever came. I don't even know if it's still a going concern.
So if there's any publications like it would be the Tolucan Times. That's for the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council. It would have to be specific to this area, the Sherman Oaks Studio City area. Sherry, do you have something to add? Unmute.
Yes, I do. Back when we were talking before about the banners, I have my cousin works for AAA Flag and Banner. I can ask her about it. I mean, they have they're a major banner company.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Right.
Terry, you have something to add? You're muted, Terry.
Sorry. Not about the banners. What were we just talking about?
We're talking about publications, local publications. We can have a monthly blurb in.
I don't know that this would the count because, or if you want to use this because this person does pay for it. And he is promoting his own business. But Craig Strong, who's a realtor in the area, he puts out a 4 or 6 page like newspaper that's as big and it's full of ads and stuff. And he's promoting himself because he's a realtor. But he does put in articles and event things and makes it kind of he wants it to be a public service for the neighborhood. I think it would be free. And it's, paid for by him.
Scott, would we have a conflict with a publication run by a realtor? I know there was somebody who had a problem with us working with Compass for the movies in the park.
We just need more information.
Okay.
Okay, that'd be great, Terry.
Because back on what you were mentioning before, the food pantry is asking for $3,500.
Oh, that's
Northwest Trees is asking for $5,000. So there's 2 in the works right now for the budget committee. And Richard and Kim are trying to work on getting a meeting date before the January board meeting. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. I'd love to do it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I realize that. So those items may not be addressed until the February board meeting, and there needs to be a complete budget reallocation from the last time there was a budget reallocation. So the official word is, until that happens, we really don't know how much we're going to spend minus what goes on the election. So we need the budget committee to meet. Anything I can do to help, Richard?
Well, I know the North Hollywood Interfaith Food Pantry, their 40th anniversary, which is amazing. A food pantry in this area lasting 40 years is incredible. It's March, I believe, is their 40th anniversary. So if they're going to be asking, if we're going to get it approved, it would be a tight squeeze, but we can do it.
It's in budget. That's all I can tell you. And they have to allocate the funds with our new budget, a new budget allocation. The 10 grand actually physically arrived from our carryover. So that's what's.
Interesting how some neighborhood councils didn't get their 10
Yeah.
grand kickback. It's interesting. Some people got it, some people didn't. Terry, go right ahead. Oh, actually, Chip, was your hand up? Did you want to say something before I get
Yeah,
started?
it was. I wasn't sure. Hi, everybody. Happy
Go
New
ahead.
Year. If I'm as a gadfly able to speak.
It's a
regards
round
to-
table. It's a round table. It's fine. We're very
Thank you.
informal here. Only the board meetings are formal. These are a little more informal.
With regards to the concern around the movies in the park, I think that there's a different scenario with someone like Craig Strong offering us distribution to get the word out. Assumedly, we wouldn't have to pay for that. I would think that was relatively clear of conflict. I think the concern that was brought up was whether someone was paying for us to advertise them. And I think that if someone was buying their logo placement versus Scott
Oh,
contributing content, I
yes.
think those are very different things.
Yeah.
The only concern would be whether Scott was endorsing Craig by putting content up.
Well, there could be a disclaimer in the
It would have to
blurb
not
like we
be
do
exclusive.
online.
Right. But Scott's looking for as large an audience as he can possibly get, so I
Right.
don't think he'd actually restrict himself to any platform.
I'll go with Terry, then Ira, then Richard. Terry, go ahead.
I was gonna bring this up, I think in item 8 for new agenda items, but I think this is I think this is more appropriate. I don't wanna sound like a horrible curmudgeon because I run a nonprofit, but as being on the outreach committee and thinking that the job is to outreach to the community, when asks are made by in like really great groups who have great missions and stuff, that's wonderful, but this isn't a philanthropic board. It's doling out money. It's supposed to be outreach for the community. So whether it's trees or somebody's 40th anniversary for their wonderful cause, I wonder what that has to do with outreach from us. So if we're going to ask for money, I think it should be channeled towards outreach. And outreach to me means letting people in our neighborhood know what's going on in their neighborhood and what they can do about it. So as much as I support all the different charities that were mentioned, we're not a philanthropic grant. We're not the California Community Fund.
Those wouldn't be outreach. Those would be for other committees.
I think that for the outreach committee, we should make an ask to the board for the budget for things that have to do with outreach, which are mailers and signs and banners and events like the farmers market or other events that we can get ourselves invited to. I keep volunteering and I'll be happy to do it so we can do it. But I will say that one of the reasons that I wanted to be on this committee is I thought this is where I had some expertise, and running a nonprofit for now, this is my 36th year. It's all about outreach and making people aware of your mission. And so you do that, boots on the ground is the very best way to do it, especially when you're only dealing with a community and not the entire city or a state.
Yeah.
But I really want to make sure that we advocate for outreach.
Right. Good point. Ira, then Richard.
I just wanted to clarify I know Chip mentioned the thing about the advertising over at the park. So the issue was brought up, I brought it up once, and then it was brought up subsequently, I think a couple weeks or a month or two later in a meeting.
Uh-huh.
The issue was not that it was real estate agents that were advertising or that somebody was thought to be promoting the real estate agents, but it was that it wasn't publicized. The opportunity to I don't want to buy ad space, or the opportunity to I'm missing the word.
Sponsor.
Sponsor, thank you. The opportunity to sponsor an event wasn't put out to the community. It was just seemingly someone just all of a sudden came up and they were the sponsors of it. That's what that was.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I know Abby did reach out to me regarding I'll get that to you, Abby. I didn't forget getting a mock-up poster for you to deliver to the city clerk's office. I think there should be maybe something on the flyers that describe that this isn't a paid sponsorship. These are just the individuals who are involved in it. Like I think I believe Compass supplied the the screen or the monitor or the movie, I think it was. So we'll work that out. We'll find some way to put something on the JPEGs and the physical flyers that are it's kind of a disclaimer that nobody paid for sponsorship or something like that. We'll
It
figure
was the individual agents who, it's a great idea to sponsor it. But it was the individual agents. It wasn't Compass. It was the individual agents, but they have to put the, as with any brokerage, you have to put the brokerage name on there.
Okay.
So, but it was those two individual agents who were sponsoring. It's a great idea. It's just,
Right.
should have been put out to the community, but it's a brilliant idea to sponsor that.
They went through Rec and Parks. They
Yeah,
they didn't go through us, so we had nothing to do with promoting the availability of a sponsorship to actually rent the equipment. And since then, Rec and Parks bought the gear, so there won't be any more.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
just clarifying what.
I know, I know. Well, it's a good idea to clarify. Was that what you were going to say, Abby?
Yes.
Okay. I'll get to you in a second, Richard. Hold on.
Being a newbie, when I started collaborating with parks, they said we are going to, well, if they had the money, they did say, if we had the money, we would just purchase, pay for the licensing. But because we don't have it, but we don't have the money, then we're going to try to look for a sponsor.
Yeah.
I'm a newbie. I said, okay, I'm not really sure how that works. I was like, okay. But then
None of us do. It was COVID. We all came in during COVID. We don't know how to run a live event.
and then
Oh, we do.
she said, and
Oh,
it's
you do? Okay, Richard, you do.
Well,
I'm
Richard-
talking about something else.
So she said, if we're not able to find a sponsor, then the neighborhood council, we will pay for the licensing.
Okay.
And we allocated money to pay for the licensing and the equipment in the event that Parks was not able to find a sponsor.
Got
Now, when they created a flyer, and then we just then Brandon, you created on behalf of neighborhood council, we created a flyer. But and that's how it went. So we didn't really look. We were going to pay for it, but they are the ones who came up with
Got
the
it.
sponsorship.
All right. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, for several years, there was a event we held in Moore Park, and a lot of people came. We had games and stuff like that. DWP provided solar power, but most importantly, people came to the In-N-Out burgers. It was an amazing amount of people coming in, and
Richard?
Yeah.
Did we supply gift cards? That was for Colin. You're the one. I just wanted to mention it. We didn't.
Gift cards?
We didn't. I'm just a joke. Go ahead. Keep going.
it was just a thing in the park. It was like the fabulous spring awakening or something like that, whatever name you want to use. But I'm saying it was an event. It was a kind of thing without basically theoretically it would be done by this committee. At that particular time, it was done by social affairs because nobody in the outreach committee was all that pushed. They liked the idea, but they didn't want to do the work. So we mapped out Moore Park. We brought in In-N-Out Burger. We had a whole bunch of games, because of course we already own and have the ice, what do you call Silicone machine. We already own the popcorn machine. Already have all the stuff we need. So it wasn't all that expensive, except for, of course, In-N-Out Burger charged us. But other than that, it was very good. If you want to add fundraising to it, you can go out to one of these sponsors and say, okay, you guys run a game, and you give away a prize of your thing from your own stock. They're doing it. I'm saying if you want to have a spring show, a spring thing at Moore Park, we can do that. It seems to work, and we're in good, how do you say it? We're on good deals with Rec and Parks. And so using the park is not a problem. So it hasn't been a problem before. And we just, on one curb, we have an In-N-Out, and also we have the solar machine that makes sound system doesn't take its power. But just I mentioned basically, it might be a good outreach event,
Yeah.
and so I would that kind of event again if you possibly can. I'm not saying that you're going to have the same support, but you might. Abby will have to decide whether she wants to have affairs take care of it like we did last time. But that's not a given unless you say so.
Cool.
We can see about it. It's a good event. And we have lots and lots of sign up for the event. And it wasn't all that expensive to do, but people had a lot of fun. We had a disc J and DJ and everything. Okay, no.
Okay. Scott, go ahead.
If we're still talking about website delegations, it would be
Yes.
good to have a person or two or three to update our calendar. I did.
Did you
January.
propagate January? Was that you?
Yeah, I populated
Thank you.
January because budget was looking for an open date and all of January was open. I wanted to make sure they didn't pick a date. And plus we have 2 board meetings
Yeah.
in January, which made things even more complicated. February and onward is empty. Ira populated a month and thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
But-
Well, what
but
I was gonna do with theirs, I was gonna contact Web Corner, and they're experimenting with an idea that Sherman Oaks has. The problem with the idea is like when you go to the committee page, everyone's got their little circles. It looks like, hey, Lionel, how are you? I will be on general comments in just a moment. You did not miss it. A guy who visits more neighborhood council meetings than I do. Lionel Mayer is right there. But the problem with that is you have to be a user. You have to be part of the list within the admin, and you're going to have 40 or 50 people on that. I don't know, maybe not, maybe 20 or 30 people. I was going to contact Web Corner to say, scratch that idea. There's an area where it says meeting. The original idea where you got the body and then you have meeting time and location. The actual committee members can go down there where they're separate from the actual body, and the top part can actually be the little blog. So that was kind of the original idea. And then Stephanie said, you want to try what Sherman Oaks does? I said, sure. But it turns out to be a lot of work because you have to populate that list with everybody who's on a council. Not a council, but a committee. And it's a lot of work. So I'm thinking about scratching that and just going to the simple route of dropping the committee members' names down where the meeting time and location is. So.
But just for our standing meetings and certain events that I've been putting in, like major public hearings at City Planning Commission and such, I mean, I have access to it, Brandon, and now Ira. It would be good if we can just populate. I mean, I'm directing people to our calendar to find out when we have
That's
meetings.
what I'm doing on social media.
Yeah. And when the calendar isn't populated, it doesn't help. Plus, when committee chairs send out their agendas, some of them are copying Web Corner and some aren't. It's just as easy for us to immediately put the agenda up on the calendar and satisfy the 72-hour posting. And then if the agendas get modified, plus it gives us a chance to open the agenda and take a look and make sure things aren't screwy and they have a chance to resubmit and repost. So in the previous board, the calendar was populated by Michael DeLazar, sorry. And he would go a few months in advance. It took a while before the president gave him the credentials to do it. And then he was pretty good. I mean, it does take time. We have a lot of committees, but we really need to populate. So if we can figure out who wants to do it, or 2 people or 3 people that regularly do it, so we don't have, I mean, Sherman Oaks is populated to the end of the year.
I know.
And then also on a delegation, I know you don't care for Nextdoor, but somebody should be utilizing Nextdoor. I get dozens of hits on the.
I fear Nextdoor. I don't like it, and I fear it.
We have a board member right now promoting himself on
Oh,
Nextdoor.
Abby raised her hand. Are you on Nextdoor, Abby?
No, not there's another, not Abby. You're muted, Abby. Don't worry, it's not you. Another,
Promote the movies, like.
Oh, yes, yes, you can do that.
That's all I
sure.
do. No, and I don't promote. No, I thought you were
no,
gonna.
someone on Nextdoor is promoting himself in the capacity of a board member and what he's been doing
Ooh.
and what he's been saying and how he's been persuading the board to vote. So,
Oh, are you saying the person's not a city official, but pretending they are?
no, he
Or-
is. He's a board
Oh,
member.
in the yeah, but that individual doesn't speak for the board. The president speaks for the
No, I
board.
understand that. What I'm saying is there's a lot of action on Nextdoor. There are topics that somebody can post links to our Nextdoor page. And if we also populate Nextdoor, somebody, just takes one person, it's easy to do. Whoever from Outreach would like to do it, you can have the keys. If Brandon doesn't want to do it, it's just a good asset because now they let you direct your Nextdoor posts right to just your community. So you're not going to get people
Oh, good.
participating from miles away and causing trouble. So there's a lot of action for those of us who are on Nextdoor. There is a lot of action on items that are under our jurisdiction, the things that we're actively discussing. And it would
Terry, is it something you want to do?
something I want to do. No.
No, Terry.
Oh, Terry?
What the Nextdoor thing? Okay, so as far as Nextdoor goes, I personally rarely look at Nextdoor. And I don't post, I think I've posted twice in 3 years. It was animal related questions. So I'm not an active user, but I do know that a lot of my neighbors are, and the conversation in the neighborhood when I'm walking around, walking my dogs around the neighborhood, is there isn't a day that something on Nextdoor isn't mentioned. So I think it is valuable in that it's free outreach.
Yeah.
And I think anytime we got something for free and we're not using it, we're really doing our committee a disservice. So I think Nextdoor should be utilized. It can be in a benign way. We don't have to be one of the noisy voices or very biased voices, of course not biased, but I think Nextdoor should definitely be something that we post on it in some capacity, and that's a bigger discussion. Also, the Studio City Residents Association. Their newsletters are chock full of stuff that people want to know about, and it's not on our calendar. And I know why I understand we've got all of our board meetings on the calendar, but is there not space to put other things that are labeled Studio City Residents Association? Not every group that happens to be in Studio City, but things that are specifically targeted to our neighborhood. I think that should be on our calendar. And I didn't know if that, or somewhere very prominently on the website, which it isn't now. So I saw all this talk about website, about how to use it and what not to do. And I think, yeah, it's great to know all the rules, but the actual website, the value of the website is supposed to be information. And
Yeah.
you know, that, so like this month's newsletter for SCRA is chock full of things that I don't know anybody in my neighborhood who isn't interested in those issues.
Now, keep in mind, the SCRA is not a government entity. We are,
Exactly,
so we have to be careful what we talk about because
but Brandon,
they
they're
can
not,
do anything they want.
exactly, but they're not a government agency, and they're also not promoting any product or business or anything. They're a community group,
Yes.
and that's all they do is advocate for the community. So why we wouldn't, and we don't have to back any of their positions, but just to say, as outreach, if you're interested, this is the Studio City Residents, this is the date of their meetings, here's a link, make your own
do
mind
that.
up. But
We
to
can do
not
that.
even mention that they exist, I think we're doing a disservice.
Yeah, well, Barry can tell us in advance when the newsletter is coming out, and we can link it
We've
up.
got a meeting next week on the 10th.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Florian's attending.
Oh, really? Did they already have Laura Friedman over there?
Yes, they did. I got to
Yeah,
ask.
they already did.
Wow.
Yes, they did. So anyway, so I was going to bring that up on the digital media thing, but I feel strongly about that. Capital O outreach.
Okay, cool. Ira, go ahead.
Isn't there a way on when you input, I don't remember seeing one, but when you input an event into our calendar, isn't there a way to have it repeat automatically every?
I think there might be, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look into that.
So if that's the case, all it has to be done is to be inputted once. And then if the click
Maybe.
it says until, like when you put something on your phone, like your phone's calendar, you can
Yeah.
say repeat every year, repeat every month until whenever, in perpetuity.
Perhaps I'll look into that. If
Yeah,
not,
that's-
we'll ask Web Corner.
Yeah,
I'm
because
sure that's the case. I just
that's
did.
something
I think
way-
there's a repeat, but then you have to make sure that it's every Thursday or every Wednesday or
right. And
whatever.
then if there's a cancellation, then we can go in there and potentially cancel that one on the calendar. But I think that would be much easier than just going there and having to manually populate every single month.
I'll look into that.
I tried that and maybe it can be done. Brandon can find out, but the problem I had was the meetings are the first, the second, the third Wednesday or Monday of the month. It wasn't like on every fourth or a certain date. It fluctuated every month. And I don't think there was a pattern for that, but maybe there is.
Maybe
I could,
there is.
Yeah, so that way, that means we'd have to do it if there was an option. See if there's an option not only for the third of every month, but the third Wednesday of every month, like
right.
I don't know if WordPress is, if our plugins are going to be that sophisticated on this site.
We'll find out. Chip, go ahead.
I want to support Terry's idea of using Nextdoor. And, repeat what Scott said. When I see Patty Kirby put up community safety or Save Weddington topics, she'll get 2, 3, 4 dozen or more comments on those. And typically any sort of homeless posting
What we can do
end
is
up with, we'll end up with a ton of interaction from the community. So, I mean, those topics are very active on the platform. So maybe it wouldn't be appropriate for every committee within SCNC, but absolutely it gets a lot of eyeballs and it gets a lot of conversation.
if you're using Nextdoor for data collection, like a survey, like, look, this is something that was going to be coming up in the next month, and we are taking a survey of individuals on Nextdoor, what they think, and then that's public input right there. So that we can collect that and announce, we had a survey on Nextdoor. This is what they said.
I'd be curious to see what the response was. I know that Harvard Westlake had actually purchased some banners at one point early in the fourth quarter, I believe, to promote their positioning on the Weddington Golf and Tennis.
Fourth quarter of what?
Fourth quarter of 2022.
Oh, I thought you were talking.
October.
I thought you were talking about a football game. I said, "Are we talking about the Rose Bowl here? What are you talking about? That's a lot of money." Oh, you're talking about the fourth quarter of the year.
Yeah. I think it was like September. Terry, did you guys ever use it for one of your nonprofits?
No. Like I said, I've only posted twice in 3 years for anything. But no, we hadn't. And as far as the posts that you're referencing, those fourth quarter paid posts, it was very interesting. And one of the good things about Nextdoor is because it is neighborhood specific. The promotions that were put out about, look at this, were met with an onslaught of, it was like the villagers at the gate, because it was very disingenuous in a lot of people's point of view. So the feedback was strong and swift and large. So I think your idea, Brandon, of running a survey, it would be valuable because, again, you can only post on Nextdoor if you actually live in the neighborhood.
Okay. So we can use Nextdoor for. I like that idea.
Perhaps that could be
Just to gauge the public to get their opinion on something.
like just the sort of survey questions that are not constructed to point to a specific answer, but really to get the temperature of the neighborhood. I think it would be very valuable.
Yeah.
And money well spent, and that's not a lot of money.
In terms of reach potential too, I think that like some of these there are some people that's members of the community that belong to other other organizations are only able to be reached by mail, right? So a lot of groups don't have a lot of email databases. Nextdoor sort of fills a gap between someone that you can only reach through the US mail, but that doesn't have a social media profile. some of those people are available to us on Nextdoor.
Cool.
You know what I think the value, one of the values of Nextdoor is that a lot of people who, especially if they have children or they have very busy jobs and they don't have the time to do these meetings and things like that. And they can tap into Nextdoor and tap in the subject they want when they have the time to do it and then be involved.
Okay. Well, that's a great case for Nextdoor. Very compelling.
And I have to say, I've read threads of people because someone will send me something and say, read this, and I read it, and there's just people just, you know, but that's that, yeah, okay, that exists, that's part of it, but it's not all of it.
Got it.
How would you characterize that again, Terry?
Sort of like Congress this morning.
And this-
Just
On
one
their
more
11th
fast-
vote, they're going to go for the 12th vote tomorrow, apparently.
One
Yeah.
more fast example of Nextdoor. There's a thread from foodies about the upcoming opening of John and Vinny's in Studio City.
Yeah.
And as soon as I have my land use agenda ready, we have Fat Sal's coming to Studio City, where Jamba Juice used to be. And I'm going to go onto that thread and direct them to the land use meeting and
Okay.
try to, someone has their finger, and
And
try
no,
to
No,
do
no, guys, this is getting out of
participation.
hand. Let's just keep it to outreach stuff.
We have another,
Because it's a thread and it will bring people to our meeting for land use and then bring them to the board meeting when it comes to
Fantastic.
the board. So in our personal capacity, there's nothing wrong with, as you're strolling through Nextdoor and you see something that's a topic we're involved in, to direct them to us. And then as in our capacity as SCNC, we can post about our meetings and events and such things.
Is there anything else to talk about regarding discussion on agenda item 5? If not, we will dispose of agenda item 5. Great ideas for everybody. That was a healthy discussion. Move on to public comments. Agenda item 6. Raise your hand if you have anything to say. Comments will be 1 minute apiece, and we'll begin with call-in user 1. When I hear your voice, you'll have a minute. Go right ahead.
Well, you should come to Van Nuys on how not to do anything. Our webmaster in Van Nuys charges between $800 to $1,000 a month, and the newsletter she puts out is basically about 5 hyperlinks, and several times they've been broken. So if you want to know how not to do it right, come to Van Nuys. You'll hear a bunch of bullshit liars, and you'll even hear the support of Dunn, those little fucking parasites. They will do whatever it takes to fuck you up. So if you just come to Van Nuys and check it out and just see how they don't do their minutes and do their postings or anything, and promote socialism. Our new president, Kathy Schreiner, is a fucking socialist. She's a piece of shit. So make sure to check it out on what not to do. That's it. Thank you.
Right. Lionel, the floor is yours for a minute. Go right ahead.
Good evening, fellow colleagues, Studio City. So I want to say that yesterday, I believe, I sent an email for the Seclavia, the Valley. It's been 2 or 3 years. The last time it was 2019. So
With
finally,
Hollywood.
yeah, the Valley is getting its first Seclavia event of 2023. The first one. There's going to be 8. Finally, all the hard work, all the advocacy work that I've been pushing through, it feels so rewarding because there's no one, as we Valley folks hardly get anything nice, like in Mid City West where Michael Schneider lives, and things like that, Echo Park, they have nice things. I would like to see nice things in our Valley area as well, because we're taxpayers as well. We contribute back to LA, so we deserve nice things. And I just want to make sure that you receive the email. I want to be
Lionel, very quickly, can you describe where Seclavia is going to be? West Valley, correct?
I sent you the link in the map. It's going to be.
I know, but this actually goes on to our YouTube page and people watch it. So people who didn't get the link, who don't have access to our email, can you talk about it a little bit?
It's going to be I think on Canoga Park, Winnetka area, neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the map in front of me,
Okay.
but it's going to be, I think, I forgot which route, but it's gonna be in Canoga Park in Winnetka. And also number 2, before I forget, the happy hour street sprawl with Councilmember Nithya Raman on January 11th, Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. via Zoom. So I sent you the link with the registration. It's a simple registration. And I look forward to seeing you there. I'm hoping as a Valley, part of the Valley Alliance, that we could persuade Street Sprawl, get more Valley residents to speak up, because apparently Mr. Schneider, who I respect, very smart guy, but he's not aware that their Valley residents are bicyclists as well, that we want bicycle infrastructure, and also pedestrian safety, mobility improvements. And I would like to see the Valley thrive from west, north, east, and south. Because that's why many years ago, the Valley tried to secede from LA, because we at the time felt unheard. We felt neglected. So we're trying to remind City Council that we want nice things also, because, sorry if it took so long. I appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lionel. For fairness, call user 1, I gave Lionel a lot of time, so if you want to have something else to add, I'll give you another minute.
I think you acted more appropriately. And Van Nuys would cut his ass off in 2 seconds.
I'll just give you more time. It's fair that way.
Yeah, no. But I think what he was saying, even though I don't agree with him politically a lot of times, was more than appropriate for him to speak. It had merit. But in Van Nuys, they would cut him off, cut me off, claim diversity, socialism, Altercocker, Yenta, gringo, whatever, hood rat. They would just do everything to make it as unpleasant for the public as possible. Thank you.
No problem. Any other members of the public who'd like to speak? Terry, I see your hand up, but you're actually a committee member. Oh, you didn't lower your hand?
No, I didn't. Do I get to speak at some point about that or no?
Well, this is really for public comment, not committee comment.
Okay, then,
So did you want to say something?
just very briefly, I just
Yeah, go ahead.
just want to support Ciclavia. I've taken part in many of them over the years, and it's just such a wonderful community event. Everybody gets to meet everybody, and again, as outreach, I hope we can promote this in the best possible way, because it's fabulous. Just love Ciclavia.
Thank you. Would like to see them go up to actually the Chatsworth area, so Scott can whip out his mountain bike and take some of those trails, but I don't think they're going to do that. Too much of a liability, I think. Any other public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, then 6 will be disposed of, and we'll move to 7, discussion and possible action, the SCNC digital checklist. Let me read the motion, and this is this is just the proposed motion. The board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the SCNC specific multi-point digital communications checklist for posting information on our digital outlets based on information within the city digital information guidelines and the NC specific digital communications policy. Do I have a second? Does anybody from the committee want to second this? Nobody wants to second this motion? Sorry?
Brandon, hold on can you give us like 10 seconds?
Sure. Two, 3, 6.
Sorry, I'll just second it to give it a shot. I'm having technical difficulties. Second.
Okay. So let me look this up. Let me show you. First off, this checklist, let me share my screen here. It's basically a simplified version of the NC specific digital communications policy that was passed last year and went into effect in November. Generally, if you look at this, there's there's definitions just for clarification. There's 7 points. Point 1 is basically from 8.1 of the digital communications policy to, actually that's 2.2. Point 3 is from 8.3, 4 is from 8.4, 5 is from 8.7 and 8.8, 6 is from 8.6, and 7 is from me. I could show you the digital communications policy later on, but the idea about this is the digital, well, you know what? I'm going to show you the digital communications policy first and show you what I'm talking about. Here it is right here. This is the digital communications policy. We're focusing on content of neighborhood council digital communications. This is the 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3 I was talking about. When you look at the entire one, it actually begins right here. It's a hot mess. It's a bureaucratic hot mess. This is a lot of double talk and a lot of things that absolutely aren't necessary. It's just a city bureaucracy making a lot of work to look busy, to be honest with you. And that was mentioned quite a few times in the run up to this digital communications policy being shot down by Bonk, and then the next month being approved when half the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners didn't show up for the meeting. But that's neither here nor there. The content, it's just a lot of stuff that is pretty basic stuff. Guidelines, committee comments made by members of the public. What this is basically, this, I'll get to the questions in a moment. The checklist is basically the greatest hits of the digital communications policy. And the idea for this is that every committee chair can have this. And this is really not necessarily for social media so much as our website. When we finally have committees using their page on the website as like a little blog, just to make sure we don't run into a little bit of trouble with saying things that aren't yet official opinions of the board, or saying things that are more activist in nature and not advisory. Like we were talking about with Nextdoor earlier, we don't tell the public what to do. We ask them what they think. And that's our role as a neighborhood council. We ask the public, they tell us what we need to hear, what they want us to hear. Then we package it up and we deliver it to the council members, and they go to City Hall and they use it to inform their decision-making process. At least that's how it's supposed to work. So everything we post should be informative. It should not be telling anybody to think a certain way or act a certain way. I don't think we would get in too much trouble from the city. It's the stakeholders that might file grievance against us. And we are a city entity. We are elected and appointed, at least the board members are, elected and appointed city officials. We have to follow a code of conduct. We have to follow our oath of office. And we are very restricted as to what we can say as a governing body. You know, what Terry was mentioning earlier about the Studio City Residents Association, they're independent, they're private. They can go ahead and say anything they want. We can't do that. So it's just a subtle reminder to the committee chairs to just, before you post something on the website, you know, be careful, think twice. And, you know, it's basically, one, very quickly, digital posting should be tastefully presented, as accurate as possible, and respectful to the various facets of the Studio City community. 2, digital posting should be directly related to the official duties and responsibilities of the SCNC. And it talks about a few things like city, state, federal resources, yada, yada. 3, any digital posting call to action should encourage stakeholders to take the path of participation in official SCNC committee meetings in order to promote civic engagement. Again, this is dialogue I took directly from the DCP, or the Digital Communications Policy. 4, digital posting must not contain any confidential, private, or sensitive information. Pretty simple stuff. 5, any digital postings should not promote any private entity or non-city entity unless such entity is working in association with the SCNC, like the movies in the park discussion we had earlier. Any such posts should include the disclaimer, acknowledgement of any private entity or persons on this page, basically a disclaimer we have on our social media pages in the bio. The general content prohibitions is directly taken from the digital communications policy. A neighborhood council may not, on its neighborhood council digital communications, publish any content about campaigns, obscene or sexual content, promotes, fosters, or perpetrates discrimination based on race, creed, color, age. It's primarily commercial in nature, condones or encourages illegal activity, violates city, state, or federal law, violates city policies, regulations, rules, directives, or procedures. Again, taken directly from the DCP. The seventh one is mine. Use common sense before posting. If there's any doubt, please consult the president of the SCNC before proceeding to post the contents. I emailed all of you this for perusal. And based on that, I will go to public comments first. I will go to the sidebar to see who came in first. Colin User 1, you were first to raise your hand. I'll give you a minute. Go ahead.
When Bonk did that, I wrote a amicus curiae letter regarding that included points of authority through court opinions and so forth, and they didn't give a flying fuck. The enforcement is arbitrary. It's punitive. How they describe things is vague, ambiguous, overbroad, and they're just to hurt you. You have no right to a hearing. Censorship to its fullest. They will nail you, as they've done with some other neighborhood councils, as diversity and equity, pushing a narrative. So, shame on you doing this checklist. You're trying to have participation of being correct, but when you ask one of those little fucking piece of shit parasites from Dunn, they'll say, "I'll get back to you. I'll ask the city attorney." So you deal with people that are not attorneys and don't use points of authority or citation. You get into a very bad situation. So they don't know anything about legislative interpretation or plain language. They're just general pieces of shit. So, but if you go to Van Nuys, we don't do shit over there. We do exactly almost nothing, even below nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Cole, the moment I hear your voice, you'll have a minute. Go ahead.
1 minute? I thought this was outreach. That would mean I'm the public and I can speak and communicate with my leaders over there at the neighborhood council. Can I have more than 1 minute?
Certainly, go ahead.
Or do I get just 1 minute?
Would you like to?
I would just like to speak until I'm finished. So that's called outreach. So Brandon, I just tuned in. I don't tune into these meetings because it's absolute masturbation. The fact, this has no business in outreach. This is no business at all in outreach. You should just, if you want to engage the public, you let them speak. How about public comment should be 2 minutes or 3 minutes? Let the public speak. And as far as all this gobbledygook and Brown Act and whatever, I've got so many Brown Act violations on you. I don't even bother filing them. Dunn's a bunch of bullshit. I've told you from the beginning, you just need to engage the community and you're supposed to listen to what we do, and you have a little bit more connection to city officials than we do, and you bring up our concerns up the food chain. Instead, you get into this masturbation. This is just ridiculous. This doesn't belong in this committee.
Thank you very much, stakeholder. Anybody else wanting to chime in on this? Very well. We have nobody else in the public who'd like to talk about this. Calling user 1, you've already had your time. So we will move to committee comments. Any committee comments on this? We'll begin with Scott, then Ira. Go ahead.
So I'd like to see this go to bylaws and procedures because we're going to be changing, well, I mean, the policy changes how we operate. So it's in addition to our bylaws and operating procedures anyway. And I think we're getting in trouble if we paraphrase the list and sort of copy and paste some of the more important stuff. We're eliminating some of the more important stuff, at least that Bonk thought was important enough to put in the list. Maybe if you just take their policy and highlight some of the stuff that people may want to focus, but to rewrite it as a checklist, I mean, this is self-enforcing. So I think, personally, I think it's a bunch of baloney. I've heard all the comments at the bank meetings about this, and I don't think people are actually taking it seriously. There's a few things in here that are pretty much absurd.
Yeah.
And I think we can, based on the number of people who are not myself or you that even have access to post, we can have an informal discussion based on the person's post and just common sense. Like your last, I think the last point is the best. Just use common sense. If the neighborhood council has violated all common sense decency with Twitter before you came on board. There are all kinds of things on our Twitter page that have no business being there. We have board members just disparaging stakeholders in meetings and in writing. I just don't think there's any enforcement from Dunn. We know there isn't any enforcement from Dunn. And I think if we want a coherent digital media policy, let's just start posting and self-enforce like it says, and use our head. Who can post besides me and Brandon anyway? And who wants to? I mean, we're doing a lot of work for probably, maybe there'll be 2 other people or 3 from other committees that are even going to want to post. And those would be committee chairs or someone designated. So I don't know. I mean, I appreciate all the work you did, but I would submit your idea to Jeff Hartwick at Bylaws and Procedures. And I think we should go from there. Thanks.
Ira Gold, go ahead.
I think this should be a joint motion between bylaws and procedures and outreach, because it does have to do with outreach. I mean, directly. I would also suggest that there are just a couple things. Okay, actually, let me address what was just mentioned. I think that this for us, and we've been on the board now for a year, we're a little more knowledgeable than we might have. We might be a little more knowledgeable than we were when we first came on. But let's say next year there's a brand new board. At least they'll have something that's easily digestible, that they can at least refer to once, if not ever read it again. Remember when we joined the board, there was nothing really to refer to. This would have been nice to at least have. Would anybody have read it? Maybe, maybe not, but I think at least this is a good idea to have something to refer to for new members if they come in. Also, I'd like to just point out on item number 4, there's and change and to any, because I think it's just sorry, it's an OCD little nitpicky. And also,
yes.
On
Yes.
item 6.3, if you got to be careful on this if you're talking about protected classes. So I would just add or any protected classes as per state and federal law.
Well, that was taken directly from the digital communications policy.
I don't know who wrote the digital communications policy, but I'm not a lawyer, and it looked really bad.
The Department of Neighborhood Empowerment did.
Right. So I'm not. I don't know.
They don't have attorneys either. And that's the main problem with the upcoming code of conduct policy. Right. They can't enforce it. They would have to go through the city attorney, and they're too busy.
But if it's anything like writing real estate contracts, especially when you're messing with a highly litigious, concept or item like fair protected classes, you want to definitely defer to state and federal law on that. So I would just write something there. Does it really mean anything? Really make a difference to add that? I don't know, but I'm going to put that suggestion out there anyway.
Okay. Terry, go ahead. Terry, you're muted.
Unmute myself. Thank you.
Yeah, that shows. Right. Okay, I
Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I thought that this also wasn't for outreach to make a decision on, but I want to say, Brennan, I appreciate all the work you did in trying to pare this down to something that is consumable for people who are not lawyers. But if you look at item number 5, it kind of negates the opportunity for what I said about including like the Studio City Residents Association and such, because right, it says any digital posting should not promote any private entity or non-city entity, which SCRA is not, unless the entity is working in association with the SCNC on an approved event or promotion. So that kind of negates what we were just talking about making people aware of other things if we're not supporting them or promoting them or whatever. So I do appreciate when I read this and I thought, wow, you went through all of that stuff and you picked out what should be important. But a lot of times I think that legalese is written to give interpretation, and this is so specific.
Yeah.
That's what made me worried about it, was that it would rein us in, and also I didn't think that we're the right committee for it. So I didn't feel like I had the expertise to make a decision on this. So that was my thought. But I do understand that you had to read all that crap in order to disseminate it down to something coherent. So
It is a lot.
You're a better man than I.
Well, you're not a man.
There you are. See that was a trick thing. You got it. So
Okay, Chip, go ahead. Oh, hi, Julie.
Yeah, I think, I'm glad Terry saw that, but I think if we had maybe not a reposting, maybe not a direct link, but if we had a specific community calendar that, so there was if there was a calendar that gave residents a chance on a monthly basis to be aware of what else was going on in the community, where they could become involved. So every other Thursday, every Thursday, Tree People has a cleanup down on the Zev Greenway. I mean, if we had that sort of community calendar, it wouldn't be an implied endorsement. It wouldn't be an association. It would simply be providing the service of the information of the opportunity. I don't think that would violate that 0.5 that Terry brought out. I think if one of us was to sit there and link to even the Tree People as a legit 501(c), I still think that would be in violation of 5. But if we heralded some cool thing they were doing on Earth Day on a community calendar, I think that would be completely legit, and I think something we should do.
Yeah, because I know you're a member of the public, so I'll go back to public comment again in just a second. Let me just say something. During the bonk meetings, it was interesting that Mr. Schaefer didn't know about the ITA policy. When the reconsideration came around, when Debbie Webby reconsidered magically out of the blue, she says, "Oh, you know what? I'm changing my mind." Suddenly, Dunn gave Mr. Schaefer from Tarzana the ITA policy. That's the technology division of the city of Los Angeles. He didn't know it existed, and he at the time. He actually, I think, conducted the ad hoc committee for the digital communications policy and never knew it existed. It was very surreal to watch. He's a pretty smart guy and he didn't even know it existed. So I think a lot of what they took from here was from the ITA policy, which deals with obviously council members and city departments, where they have to be a lot more careful or people are going to sue their pants off. By just taking it directly from that policy and dropping it into the NC specific DCP, suddenly it doesn't really apply to us much. We are self-governing, but it's kind of with Dunn, okay, you're self-governing, except on this, and this thing right here. Here we govern you, which they don't. They try, but they don't. So yeah, on that, I think with that part, I think 5 was basically from 8.7 to 8.8. I think they just pulled it directly from the city procedure. So because I let Chip speak, we'll go back to public comments. I'll give a minute apiece. If anybody from the public would like to chime in again, I'll give you a minute. Anybody? Calling user 1. I knew you could not pass up this opportunity. Go right ahead, sir.
When I was with Van Nuys Neighborhood Council, when I was stupid enough to join, I got something called the LIC Committee, LIC, Legislative Information Committee. Way that we're able to, or how I busted out very in-depth issues, is I used to invite in person at the state building in Van Nuys, the local San Fernando State Bar. Had volunteers from them. I had several political science people show up from colleges because they wanted to have my certificate of appreciation so they could put on their resume. And trust me, they did a great job. I had people from law schools. They showed up because they wanted that certificate of appreciation. And you'll be amazed on how much hard work is done. Dunn did not like that because they thought that was being too good. So I told Dunn, of course, they could show up or go fuck off, and they decided to fuck off because they knew if they showed up, you would have a bunch of people, like a couple of retired judges and so forth, ask some questions, and they wouldn't be able to answer. So you really need to beef up what you have, the checklist, but at least you're starting the conversation, which is good. But the grammar in that policy has some severe problems, but you know what?
Yeah.
Beltran could go fuck herself, all I care. Thank you.
So I know Julie came in late. Did you, we are on agenda item 7. Did you want to chime in on that? You're muted.
No, I think I'm going to get caught up here for a second, but thank you.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing mostly from this committee, the best choice might be just to refer this to the Bylaws and Operating Procedures Committee run by Jeff Hartwick, who knows quite a bit about law. And maybe perhaps they can determine whether or not this is something that should make it to the board. Scott, you wanted to chime in on something?
I just wanted to say we were talking about number 5 as it relates to the SCRA. And here's the workaround for that. The board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves noting SCRA events on our calendar for informational purposes only.
Okay.
Boom, you're done. It's done. We can promote their events. I mean, some of these things they're writing, we just use our head and go, you know, what is it we're trying to do? We're trying to say that Council Member Kokorian and Senior Lead Officer Sean Smith are going to be meeting at Bridges next week. And that is important to the community. And I'm going to attend. And I feel that we should tell, with, of course, the permission of the SCRA, I mean, they cross-promote us, and I think we can cross-promote them. It's not like we're promoting the shops in Sportsman's for good pizza or whatever you like. So I think we can creatively work around any of these things that whereby they think they're hamstringing us. Thanks.
So the question would be, should this checklist, and I mentioned earlier, it's just the first go around on this checklist. Clearly it's not complete. I basically just used the digital communications policy and copied and pasted a lot of it, added a few things to make it specifically for us, like the SCNC part and the last part. But is this something that should be forwarded to Jeff Hartwick at Bylaws and Operating Procedures and have them take a stab at it?
Sure.
What do you guys think? Any comments from the committee on this? Terry, go ahead. I see your hand, Richard. Hold on.
Yes, I agree. I think it should go on, not from this, it shouldn't be from this committee. And to your point, Scott, I don't know if I articulated this, but what I meant was exactly what you say, is that if we pare it down to a checklist, we restrict ourselves. The legalese in the gobbledygook that's in the larger document gives for more ambiguity. If we pare it down to specific, we're going to lock ourselves in. So that was my point. I don't know if I articulated
Cool. All right. So Richard, anything to add?
Yeah, one thing that is that if you saw the most current edition of the SCRA newsletter, it does cover Luminaria and with a picture of Lana in it. You know, to me, basically, that makes sense, basically, for us to cooperate and, you know, announce their stuff too, as they announce our stuff.
Very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm losing. I don't quite understand. I don't remember the Roberts procedure for this. I believe it would be a motion to refer this checklist to Bylaws and Operating Procedures Committee, correct? That would be the motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion would be to refer the checklist to the Bylaws and Operating Procedures Committee. So I move to refer this digital SCNC digital checklist to the Bylaws and Operating Procedures Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
You can't second, Richard. You're not part of this committee.
I,
Okay.
That's fine with me.
I'm sorry, Richard, but you're not part of the committee.
It's okay.
Hit me with a guilt trip. All those who are in favor of this, raise your hand or say aye.
Yes.
3. All those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. So I'll refer this to Jeff Hartwick at the Bylaws and Operating Procedures Committee, and I'll also send him the notes for that. And we'll move on to agenda item 8. This one's a little tricky because according to our Bylaws and Operating Procedures, the election ad hoc committee should be only stakeholders, not board members. I know Scott told me the previous election cycle was actually run by the Outreach Committee, which I found unusual because it flies in the face of our own laws. I didn't understand how they pull that off when clearly in our Bylaws and Operating Procedures, you can't do that. So I'll get to you in a moment on
Lisa
that.
Tarkin ran the committee and she's not a board member.
True, but board members, but Outreach was involved in it, correct?
Outreach did all the outreach. And
there was an ad hoc committee that was solely.
the ad hoc committee never met in public. It had board members on it and it had people running for office. It violated just about every rule, regulation, moral and ethical guideline for operating a ad hoc election committee. They were involved with the questions, they were involved in the promoting, and they were running for office. So, and they met in secret. They never had public meetings.
Got it.
So we are not going to model
no.
the current, the new, if there is an ad hoc, nobody has responded. I can't find anybody who wants to take up that.
Well, we still have a little bit of, time.
It's going to wind up, this is going to wind up being an outreach committee
yeah, unfortunately.
function, and we'll be doing more outreach work than actual monitoring of the election, which is going to be tough if some of us are running.
Yeah.
Is the-
Go ahead, Julie.
I was just gonna say, is there a line where, sort of like the digital communications policy, where we're putting information out there, but not doing sort of some of the nitty gritty, like?
Well, let me comment on that. I know other NCs, the city clerk has, I don't know if they've already reached out to Scott regarding speaking at the January regular board meeting, not the special one, but the regular, they have. So they've been doing this. They started this in December, actually earlier than that, because we're the last one out of the gate. But they've been going to different board meetings, different neighborhood councils, and describing what the process is. And board members have been asking questions. So more than likely, they'll more likely be at the January 19th board meeting. They'll be there, and then you can ask that question because
Jocelyn Alvarado.
Yeah.
On our agenda.
Yeah, I've seen them just talk about this at other NC meetings, and they're pretty detailed as to their presentation. So they're good at it. So
Right,
I'm sure they're either your question. What? Go ahead, Scott.
It's separate and distinct. The city clerk handles the logistics itself and the technicality of the election, whereas Dunn is involved with more outreach efforts. So we'll be working with different aspects of the election between those two organizations. Pretty much everything regarding the ballots and actual physical voting is the city clerk, and the promotion of is done.
Got it. Okay. So this motion, just a discussion. It's a roundtable discussion, special outreach meeting, perhaps in late January, based on what we hear in the January 19th presentation regarding the upcoming elections. That's election specific, including the creation of mailers, messaging, and discussion with city clerk Dunn representatives. I just wanted to put it out there to the outreach committee, in case we don't get a stakeholder only ad hoc committee. It's probably a good idea that we meet sometime in late January and just get the ball rolling, because starting in February, that's when people will begin the process of filing to be candidates. So we have to start talking about this in January. We're probably already a little late, but I know Venice is already on it, and they've been promoting on their social media posts about, become a candidate, run for office. They're way before us in terms of the election day. So we do have the benefit of being June 22nd, the last possible day. But it's probably a good idea to start talking about mailers, outreach, getting the word out. Obviously, social media will be easy to do. But in terms of what Terry was talking about last time, actual physical mailers, and maybe putting on those mailers out. I mean, I have it. Hold on. I have the original one right here that Scott gave me the last time I was at the office. Is he going to be able to see this? Yeah, it's right here. There's nothing that's a QR code. But on this one, they're really... there we go. There's a sweet spot right there. There you go, right there. It's just about running for office. There's obviously, this part would have to be clear for the post office, but this must have cost a lot of money. I didn't see the actual numbers, but we could do something maybe a little smaller that might also have an information sheet on the back, helpful numbers, helpful websites, QR codes that we could put on there. So this remains on someone's refrigerator or corkboard or whatever. I didn't throw this away. I was thinking about, I said, oh, this is interesting. We have a neighborhood council. I never heard of it before. I've been here since 1997, but I kept it. It was on my corkboard. And one day I said, oh, you know what? What the hell? I'll run. I never win anything. Then Scott contacts me and says, hey, you won. I didn't believe him. I thought he was pulling a joke on me, but I got 3rd place out of 3. That's a victory, right? I never win anything. And I did. I actually got in. So that's why the reason why I ran is because I just kept this on my corkboard for whatever reason. But I don't think, I think I might be the exception to the rule. Most people probably just threw this away. So how do we not get people to throw this away? And that's the question. I know Terry was talking about this quite a bit in November. Any suggestions on any mailers? We could talk about it right now, but there's no guarantee we'll have a meeting in late January. So we can do a roundtable right now and come up with some ideas about what to do. We'll go to the public. Call in user 1. Go ahead. Sir, your hand was your hand up previous? No, there you are.
Thank you very much. So you're looking for people for ad hoc?
Yes.
Okay. I'll ask Goat Puppet. He will. I know he owns property in that area, so he could volunteer. I have interest there. I could volunteer. I could bring some real nutty people as ad hoc. That should help you a lot.
Just a point of information, calling user 1, he is now the artist formerly known as Goat Puppet. He doesn't use that anymore.
He's more of a lambist, so I understand that. So if you need amicus curiae members or something like that. I could get a ton of that. Attorneys, former judges, legislative drafters, stuff like that. If you need help.
Yeah, that'd be,
But
if you can
besides
forward that
that,
to Scott or myself, it'd be great.
Done without hesitation will fuck up a junkyard. That's their job. So, just direct accordingly what you need done, and if it sounds right, that's fine. Anytime I did ad hoc committees, I always follow the Brown Act. I don't have secrets of anything. So if it ain't transparent, it ain't worth it. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that that the mailer has to have an incentive for people to run, rather than just saying run for and how to do it. It has to have an incentive. And that catchphrase is maybe something we could have a meeting about the actual verbiage on that mailer. But I think that's why most people throw it away. It might say run for your neighborhood council, here, make your voice be heard, be part of the change. But I think the specific issues, a listing of specific things that are the hot button things in this neighborhood is why people will join a committee. Yes, I want to change that.
You got it. Anybody else would like to comment on this? I'm really thinking about having a specific meeting specifically for this. It's important. And it's going to be a big undertaking. It's probably going to take up a lot of outreach time this year, getting this done. So again, like I said, the website and social media and Nextdoor, if somebody else can do it, because I avoid that like the plague. But if we can get the word out on social media, that would be fantastic. Other neighborhood councils, like I said, who are already in the cycle, who are going to have their election day far before us. I think what is Venice? Is it Region 11? I don't remember what region it is. 5? No, it's not 5. It can't be. That's mid. I don't know. But our Region 4 is the last one. So we do have a little bit of time. We can hit social media right away. And based on what budget we have remaining after everything that's coming up, I think the word was last time, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 10,000 for mailers? Was that what they estimated it cost? These mailers right here, was it 10,000 for just the
9,000.
printing and the distribution?
It was almost 10 grand.
Oh my
But
God.
most of it was postage.
Yeah.
I believe we had estimates from Walking Man as well, but I think the postage wound up better or more efficient because it covered just about everybody, I think. And
Yeah.
Walking Man wouldn't or didn't, if I'm remembering correctly.
I mean, did they do the UPS EDDM, United States Postal Service service?
Yeah, the company that was hired to do the mailers has that list.
No, but we don't need a list with the post service. We just give them the mail and they deliver it to the addresses.
Zip code.
Yeah, the service that we paid, it included postage and they did all the addresses. They had the addresses.
Oh, okay.
We didn't physically address the mailers. We paid a service to do it.
Oh,
Postage and handling. You have access to the binder. It's in there. There's a lot of pages, but I think I gave you sort of a cheat sheet of where certain key things were. It's on our shared drive. By the way, anybody listening, if you're serious and want to be on the election ad hoc committee, S. Mandel, that's SMANDELL at studiocitync.org. Yeah. And send me an email and we'll talk.
so this is something I wanted to show here. This is what I'm talking about. The Every Door Direct Mail. This is from the post office. You can choose different routes and it'll show you how much it'll cost. I think this is just a delivery. I don't think this is postage. Postage is separate. I think this is just hiring them to go out there. And this is 996 night mails right here. And you can just kind of figure out how much it's going to cost for all of this. But again, I think it's them delivering it and the postage is separate. I have to look into that. That's way too cheap for a government service. Way too cheap. It's a trap. But yeah, that's something we can do as well. Yeah, so I think the best idea is actually come up with a separate meeting. It won't be an ad hoc. It'll be a meeting that'll be late in January. I don't know if public is this public safety meeting this month? They are, right?
Probably.
I would assume. So I'll look on the calendar and see a day that is not propagated by.
Safety is meeting on Thursday, the 26th. of
Okay. Okay. So I'll get back to you guys regarding ask for some ideas about what days you'd like to meet on this, and then we could spend an entire hour or so just to go over what the heck we're gonna do. Again, this is my first go around as a neighborhood council board member. Richard, who's got his hand up, has done this before. So Richard, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Richard, you're muted.
We get one of our own people living in the city might want to do a visual version or a PSA for us. And I'm thinking like Mayama Balick, Ed Begley Jr., or somebody of that nature. Basically, that would interest people. Basically, want to have a promotion from one of our residents.
Okay. Okay.
I was talking on this subject, but Mayama Balick at the last election, and didn't really say this wasn't this particular thing. She was just encouraging me. Well, that's great. I had already been on for many years, but she still encouraged me again. Seemed to be nice about it. Has a couple of kids, and she's very much a local.
Okay. Very well. Julie, go ahead.
Well, I'd just like to support the idea of the flyer. I think we've discussed this before, but I'm very into that. I think it was very effective. I think it was a good use of the money. If it were a little bit smaller, perhaps it would save a little bit of money. It was extra big, but it made it stand out.
Yeah.
And perhaps at our meeting, we can take that as a basis and just talk about what we would change instead of feeling like we're starting from scratch. Because I think they spent a lot of time on that and it was effective. So I would just say, use that as a basis. And I love the idea of the QR code that you mentioned, or
well, it's on the
somebody
back.
had mentioned important dates. Like there were ideas about ways that it could be improved, but I think using that as a basis would make it a much quicker event for us instead of feeling like we have to start from scratch. And also it would give us, we can concentrate that, only one side of it would be for posting, right? That you could put up on social media and make sure that it's something that you can use for multiple uses. The front of it would be also for posting, and then the back would be additional information for those who receive it in the mail.
Got it. Bingo. Thank you. All right. Based on that, I will put together an election-specific outreach meeting. I'd love to bring as many board members in as possible to get their input, but I will go ahead and do that. Other comments? None? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Julie. No? You're muted.
You're muted.
For whomever designed it, would we have, that's a cost as well, right? Whoever's going to actually design the piece. Are you going to do it?
Why not?
I love that. I love that you're talented like that. That's very cool.
I'm the one who designs all of our graphics. Apparently, I'm
Excellent.
pretty good at it, despite
Yeah.
what some people think. I'm actually pretty good at graphic design. I make a lot of
Excellent.
money doing it, so there you go.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Affairs is your fan.
Thank you, Abby. All right. Based on that, we will dispose of agenda item 8, and I will put together a meeting late in January to talk about this specifically and nothing else. Agenda item 9, discussion of possible future agenda items for outreach consideration. Oh, Colin User One jumped in almost immediately. I wasn't even done speaking and that hand went up. So you're pretty good at that. Go ahead and call User One. You're muted. There you go.
Okay, for the outreach chair to contact Dunn and the city attorney to get a workplace violence restraining order against me so I could file an anti-SLAPP and earn a bunch of money this year. So I think that's very important to do that. So that's pretty much it.
That's actually the president's job. I can't speak to the city attorney, but he can. So it'd have to be Scott's job. Scott, are you interested in doing that?
Yeah, I just want, you could ask, you have an attorney on the board, Mr. Richard Nirenberg, and I just want it to be fashioned where I could file an anti-SLAPP and get a bunch of money. That's all I asked for. Thank you.
Don't work harder, work smarter. Okay, Abby, go ahead.
So can I share?
Possible?
Possible?
No. Did you want to share something?
I do, because you have to see it. Well, everyone needs to see it.
Is this outreach specific?
Yeah, with cultural affairs, yes.
Let's see. Go right ahead.
Okay, 1 second. I'm not gonna do the whole presentation. So
Okay.
don't worry about it. And let me know if this is it projecting?
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Okay, hang on. I want to make this bigger.
That's fine.
I don't need any movement.
No, this is fine. It's plenty size. Don't change it. It looks fine.
Okay, good. So as you know, last November, the Cultural Affairs Committee, we had a motion to spring and summer movies in the park, and it passed. So this month, I'm going to be working on the paperwork to submit to NC funding. And in order for this events to be successful, Cultural Affairs needs outreach support. And with that said, that will be Brandon's creativity.
Well, we're all very creative here. It's not just me.
Well,
look, when we go to farmers market, I'm sitting behind the table like, what do I do? And Terry's out there just killing it.
Oh,
I wish I had Terry's energy, but we're all very talented at what Terry's laughing. We're all very talented at what we do.
Have different talents. We all have different talents. So my talent is not designing at all. So this is what Beeman's provided us. So we have a draft, and this is a sample, and this is for I think this is the spring. So we have a theme. The theme is going to be summer hats, and this is for the summer. And for the summer, it's going to be a Hawaiian theme. Aloha. And so my idea for Brandon, I guess, is in the past, obviously this is my first time here. So in the past, I saw a banner in which it had 2 movies in one banner. So I wonder if we can create that as well. So we can just, I guess, print 2 banners.
The question would be, I think that would be more for Kim. I mean, what is the city clerk looking for? You mentioned something about that in your presentation, you need a poster. Is it specifically for that spring event? Could it be spring and summer, or would city clerk kick it back and say, no, it's only gotta be spring?
I'm gonna be submitting the 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna be submitting the paperwork for the 2 events at once.
Got it.
Both, I mean, the motion passed, so I'm submitting the paperwork for both. The budget is here. There are some items that probably the president and the treasurer we need to discuss. But in a nutshell, this is just wanted to present to you that this is the idea. I'm happy to forward this to you.
Yes.
And, so we have something. Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's all I have. Sure.
Okay. Lionel was first, then Julie.
Yes. Briefly, I heard the Studio City Farm Market. I noticed that they're not updating their Twitter profile, and I was wondering if you, of any member of the committee, can reach out to the Studio City Farmers Market communications person if they could continue updating their Twitter. It's been a while. Or if they can't do that, I've gone to their webpage, and I've never seen a subscription link for their newsletters. So it would be up to date about any events, or even though it's on Sunday, I understand that, but things might come up, or they may have a special event. And I love farmers market, so because I like the outdoor atmosphere and things like that.
Well, Lionel, the farmers market is a collaboration between the Chamber of Commerce and the Studio City Residents Association. You can contact the Diamonds over there and probably ask them, and I think they would have greater pull with actually having the farmers market update their Twitter, Beth and Alan Diamond. If you go to their website and you email them, I think it would be more direct, because they do directly work with the farmers market on that. We can ask, but I mean, we've had problems before. They wouldn't get back to us. I think one time their email box was full, and it would just kick the email right back. So that's life. So yeah, I would contact the SCRA about that. Julie, and then Richard.
Yeah, just going back to Abby, to your presentation, I think those graphics are adorable. I just noticed one little thing, and maybe Brandon can fix it. It looks like they flipped the graphic under the popcorn, and so where the ticket is and it says cinema, it's backwards.
Oh, I didn't create it. That was Beeman, but where? So
Yeah.
I can notice that. 1 second.
Yeah, look under the popcorn and there's like a movie ticket, and the word cinema is backwards. I think they flipped the graphic so that it would sit a certain way.
Oh, I see.
That,
Hey,
yeah.
good
That's
eye.
weird stuff I see like that. Yeah.
I'll
Just
take
with-
care of that.
Okay, good eye. I didn't notice that. I was more into the text, and okay, I'll mention that. But yeah, no, that was Beeman Park that created that.
Yeah, it's cute. It's just flipped. Yeah.
I do content. I don't do graphics.
Mr. Niederberg, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to reintroduce the idea of having something at Moore Park. The kids love it. And it's something we could do fairly inexpensively.
Richard, it wasn't the art fair that you would have there from time to time, was it, that you guys did?
The art fair was through what was it, Rotary.
Oh, okay.
I have to do with all the community groups in Studio City. That's my gig. So it's like that one of the ideal with is the Rotary. The other people use part of the time is the animal control, because they allow you to text drive. But we can easily avoid their dates, and just have an event there. It worked very well last time. And of course, again, we have the popcorn machine, we have the snow cone machine, we have the cotton candy. It's something we can do very low cost and very, very public and friendly, particularly kids friendly.
Okay.
Idea, it's definitely an outreach type thing.
All right. Cool. Anybody else with ideas about possible future agenda items for outreach consideration? If not, 9 is disposed of, and we'll move to 10. Wow, this is nearly a 2-hour meeting. Rare for outreach. I move to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Terry was like, yes. Very well. So Terry seconds it. So I will adjourn this meeting at, let's call it 8:52. Let's round it up to 8:52. Thank you very much for everybody for attending and giving some fantastic input. I will move that that checklist over to Jeff Hartwick at Bylaws and see what they have to say about it. They have some legal minds over there, so they'll be able to tear it apart and Frankenstein it and put it back together and make it work. And all these ideas it was a very good meeting. I appreciate that, and thank you for everybody for attending. I will get back to you regarding a late January meeting that is election specific. Until then, you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.
Thank you.